So let's open up this template here. I'll just right click and open up with Photoshop right here. And so first off, I need to import and load in my drawings. And again, I only have 2 drawings here, but I think we can kind of show you what you need to know with those 2. So I'm going to open those up. So I'll go to File, Open, and it is in my panels folder right here. 1, 2. And I'll just select each one and I'll right click and go to Duplicate Layer and just drag it into the anamorphic template that I made here. Right click. And so we have 2 drawings right there. I'm going to go ahead and name them again. So they kind of lost their names during the translation there. So panel 1, double click, panel 2. And these should both be about the same size here, if not exactly the same size. So I can just put them on top of each other. Select both, so I'm holding down Shift on my keyboard, select 1, 2. Then I'm going to press Command and T, or go to Edit Free Transform, which you can see there, the shortcut is Command and T. And I don't need to hold down Shift, I can just drag the arrow and it should scale uniformly in. And I'll kind of scale that basically into position here. And oops, I always do that. You're supposed to press the check mark up here to accept a free transform, and I always forget to do that and just click V out of habit. And so you can kind of place these here. If you want to be able to see the template panels here, you can switch the mode of these drawings here. So let's look at panel 1 for a second. And I can switch it to, let's try, I think, multiply is probably the best one here. So I'll zoom in. And you can see that I can, we don't have to, this doesn't have to be 100% perfect here, but I'm just using the move tool to move it around. And you can see here that the lines from my original drawing, you see that outer line right there where my cursor is the lines from the panel. And you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard just to nudge it over to kind of get things into a specific position right there. And you can place things the way you want. And if you want to crop out that border right there, I'll show you how to do that. So you'll want to use the rectangular Marquee Tool, shortcut M, and this is a good way to just kind of slice out. Imagine you're using an X-Acto knife and kind of slicing out a section of a layer that you don't want. And so you see it creates a dotted line right there, so that's indicates Photoshop's selection. And so just keep that in mind here. It kind of makes a selection here. So I'm going to press this button right here, and I'm just going to click in the top left and hold and drag down to the bottom right of the panel right here, then let go. So we can see we have a dotted line right there. And so, and notice that I have panel 1 selected in my layer menu right there. And if I press delete right now, it'll delete out the area that's within the box, which is, you know, not really what we're going for here. Sometimes that'll be useful though. So I'll press Command Z. And so what we would need to do is we need to inverse the selection here. And I'm trying to just delete this outer area right here. So the shortcut for inversing the selection is Shift Command D, or you can go to Select and then, oh, I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing, Shift Command I, and you inverse the selection right there. And so Shift Command I, or just go to Select, and then it's that inverse right there. So I selected it, and now if we zoom out, we can see it's selecting everything else outside of that box right now that's in that layer. And it's not going to delete the template or anything like that because we only have panel 1 selected in our layers. So now if I press delete, it'll delete out that outside box. And so we still have that dotted line right there. And so Command D, that was the shortcut I was thinking of before, deselects it here. You can also go to select and then deselect right there. And then the selection goes away. We got our layer. I'm still in multiply mode, so I might want to switch this back to normal mode just to get this thing back to normal view, although it doesn't really affect things too drastically there. And so now we have a panel laid out inside of that box. So let's repeat that step for panel 2 here. So I've got panel 2, and I'm going to use the navigator to zoom in a little bit. And so here, I'm going to make sure that panel 2 is selected now. Make sure that you select the layer that you want to be adjusting. I'm going to switch it to multiply as well so I can see the template underneath it. And press V, which is the simple move tool. And remember, you can use your arrows here to place it. And that looks compositionally like what I'm kind of hoping for here. Yeah, right there. And so same thing as before, we're going to use the Marquee Tool, which is the way you make box selections here. You can also use it to make elliptical and kind of have some other options here. 99% of the time when I'm using it, I'm using this, the main square option here though. And so again, I'm just looking at the template box, and I have panel 2 selected in my layers menu. I'm just dragging from the top left, holding down, and then dragging to the bottom right. It's hard to see in the bottom right, but I'm going to use the top right to help me kind of line that up. Okay, so I have it selected, but if I press delete right now, right, it'll delete the middle, so we need to inverse it. So I'm going to go to select, inverse, shift command I right there. And so now that selects everything on this layer that's outside of that box. And so now if I press delete, it'll delete everything outside of that box, which is great. And so now we still have that double dotted line, and if you try to like move on and do something else without deselecting this, it'll kind of cause a hiccup for you. So you just want to go ahead and deselect this. And so just go to select, deselect, command D right there. And then finally I'm going to switch this to normal mode instead of multiply. So now I have panel 1, panel 2 right in there, and they're laid out. So this is kind of a good start here. So how should we fill in the rest of this information right here? So we have what we kind of went over before, where we have the title, the sequence information, the page number. Right here we have dialogue. There's not dialogue in these 2 shots, but when you have dialogue, just write quotation marks around it in the dialogue, just so it's just to help again make the make it immediately clear to the viewer, like, okay, this is dialogue here. And then action notes is just information concerning camera movement if it needs some extra description. And like for instance, in this shot right here, there's an explosion, which we can see in the bottom right. And then there's a character getting knocked over by a crane. So you might write that out in the action notes. The camera's really not moving that much in the scene, other than some random kind of jittering movement from the camera being on, you know, on a truck platform as it's moving. Kind of same for this shot as well. So in terms of camera movement, a lot of times it's good to put action notes in there just to describe the camera movement, particularly if that's important in the shot. But in these 2 shots, it just happens to be that there's not a lot of important camera movement here. And so there's 2 ways you could do this. I could make a new layer, and I could right there, and then just use the brush tool, and you could kind of just write in, just using pen, your scene information. We got Max, right? Page 1, and we're in sequence 1. Within my boards, this is scene 1, panel 1. We're on to the next shot here. So we're still in sequence 1, but we're now on to, remember, scene is like shots, so we're on a different shot now. So we're on shot 2, panel 1, right there. And there's not any dialogue in the scene, but let's just pretend that there is. So I could just write in under this right here. Hey, look out. Oops. It's important not to do doctor handwriting here. I know I kind of have strange handwriting here. So you could kind of write in dialogue there, and then let's say there's no dialogue in this scene, so you can just leave that box blank. And down here under action notes, you can write things like, I could write in character is initially I would make your handwriting a little better than what I'm doing. I'm just trying to be quick here since we're doing a tutorial. I'm saying character is initially facing backwards and turns his head towards camera. And you might also write, this is a medium close-up shot, so I might write in MCU right here. It's a static shot in terms of camera movement, so I don't need to write anything in terms of camera movement. And so this character note that I'm giving right there is to help describe this arrow. You know, whenever you have an arrow in your shot, I think it's good in the action notes just to kind of try to write that out here. And so in this shot, there's no dialogue, but there are some things happening in the action. So Crane knocks over. Oh man, my handwriting's so bad on this. Let's see. Forgetting the name of these characters in Mad Max. That's so so unlike me here. I'll say one thing that I did in the first shot that you should do is I say characters initially facing forwards, like know the name of the character. I'm having a brain fart and I'm forgetting the name of that character here. Let's see here. Explosion. Explosion in the foreground there. So, right, these are two different scenes or shots. So we have scene 1, scene 2. This is all part of the same sequence. Everyone just write 1 for your sequence. And then this is the first panel of shot 1. And then this is the first panel of shot 2 right there. And so let's say that shot 2 needed another panel here, like something else is happening. Then with the shot, you know, maybe the camera rotates 180 degrees or does something kind of crazy like that. Then I would write, in that case, I'd write sequence 1, and then it would still be shot 2. But then now it would be panel 2 right there. And so that's kind of how you write out that information. So you can just do it by hand, like I did here, particularly if you have good handwriting. And additionally, you could also type it out. So using Photoshop's text tool right here, you can choose your fonts. Arial will probably be a good one for me on this one. It's just a pretty unobtrusive font here. And so when you're using the text tool, something that's an advantage of the text tool, I think writing it out is going to be quicker for you all. And I think in storyboards, as long as your writing is legible, it's okay. But it is pretty nice to just make sure that everything's totally legible here. So to write this out, I would use the text tool, and there's a few ways you could do this, but And one advantage of the text tool is if you have multiple pages, these layers will still be here, and we can kind of duplicate this page and make it like page 1, 2, 3, 4, and put different drawings on it, and then you can just retype each of these fields. So for the title, for instance, just click right there. So again, I just press the text tool, pressed right there. I chose my font, which you choose right here. This is the font size up top. Right here is the alignment of it. So right now it's left aligned, which is what you're going to want here. If I clicked it here, it would be center aligned and then right aligned, which neither of those you're going to really want for these. And then here's the color of the font. So black is good for this, and that's where you choose the color there. And so I can type in, put my pen down for a second, Mad Max, and oops, then you can just place it right there. And we're on page 1. So again, I'll just press T or the text tool, type right there where I want it to go, type 1, got it there. And we're probably going to need to group these layers here. So it's just to keep things organized, because this is going to get like a little out of control here otherwise. And so just kind of keep that in mind, that it's good to keep this organized. But each time I click a new type tool, it automatically generates a new layer for it. You could also do this where with the text tool, if you click and you drag, you make a field. And so the type will kind of fit inside of that box right there. So I'm going to type in sequence 1 and then press this, oops. And press the space bar a bunch of times. Scene 1. And panel 1. And so something that's nice about this is I just pressed the move tool after typing that in, and I can just move it into position. And then from here, you can right click and duplicate, or press Command J. So I'll just duplicate this layer. Press OK. And then I can just hold with this V button or this main move tool, I can just hold Shift and drag it. And now we have it kind of filled in for the next one. And for the second one, I just need to write, we're still in sequence 1, but we're now on to shot or scene 2, but it's the first panel of that shot. So the rest of that is good. And kind of continuing out with that idea, like let's say that this shot right here requires 2 panels. I would just press Command J to duplicate that layer again, drag it over, holding Shift, and drag it into position. And here I can write, we would still be on shot or scene 2, but then I would just write panel 2 right there for that. And so continuing down for the dialog box, I can just drag out an area like that and kind of define the field for myself here. And you can see it writes in this random like Latin phrase or something. And so I'm just going to delete that out. So I can't remember the dialogue I said he would be saying, but hey, that's not what he says in the film, by the way. I'm just kind of writing something. And so, but let's just say that he has a lot more to say. Oops. I did not mean to make a new layer right there. So if you make a new text layer like I did by mistake, just select it in your layer field, press delete, and delete it out. And then I'm just going to click on this again. I'm going to try again to, continue writing this out. I'm just going to type in random letters here. So you can see here as I type things out for the dialogue that it automatically kind of fits within that field that we created here. And so for dialogue, you can just kind of do this once and then do what we did up here where we just duplicate it a bunch of times and then retype different dialogue you want the characters to say here. So I'm just going to click in here and delete out the random letters I was typing in there. And then I could just take this layer here and then right click and duplicate, or press Command J again to duplicate the layer. Press OK. Just hold down Shift and drag it down. And so I can retype what this area, and this could be action notes. So also important to write, almost forgot, at the beginning of the action notes, just indicate if there's no camera movement in this shot, but if there is an important camera movement, write it in. Remember I was saying the arrows is really helpful to just, in the action notes, if there's an arrow, just write out what that arrow means, just to make absolutely sure everyone understands. But also, this is a medium close-up shot, so I want to write MCU at the beginning of it. And there we go. And so for this shot, there's no dialogue in it, but there are some action notes. So I can just right click and duplicate this layer, press OK, and then just hold I'm on the move tool, which is V, and then hold down Shift and just drag it over. And we have action notes right there. So I can just press T, type in. So this is, I think it's a wide shot. And just type in crane Okay, so for yours, try it. This would be helpful if I remember the name of this character right here. So instead of saying character is initially facing forward, I would say the name of that character here. This is a secondary character who's getting knocked over by the crane. So I'd say wide shot, crane knocks over a secondary character's explosion occurs in the foreground. And so here we have page 1 of our storyboards. So what we can do to kind of keep this organized, and I feel like this way works out a little better than writing it out, just because it's you do end up with more layers to kind of gain control of here. But when you move on to the next page, and I'll show this in a minute here, is we can just retype in some of these fields, page 2, leave some of the things like this that can stay in place. And so it can kind of almost save some time there. It just kind of depends on the way you want to roll with this. So page 1. So I'm going to save this as page 1. So file, save as. I'm going to save a PSD, so I have an editable layer here. So I'm going to call it MM for Mad Max, page 1, and save that as a Photoshop file. So I'll have layers to adjust. And also I'm going to go ahead and save it as a copy as a JPEG, because when you go to make a PDF, you'll find that you can't make PDFs out of PSD files. It's got to be out of a flattened JPEG file. So I'm also going to save this, and that's super important. I'm going to save it as a copy and save it as a JPEG as well. So I have Mad Max, page 1 is a PSD, so I can go back and edit it if I want. And I can save it as a copy here, so I have a flattened JPEG, and can turn that into a PDF. So, might be good to organize this thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select these top ones right here, and I'm going to press Command G, or press this folder right here to group them together. I'm going to call that text top row. Okay. And then I'm going to shift and select this row right here, and press Command G, or press this folder right here. And I'm going to go text panels. And here below, I'm going to shift Command G. I'm going to write text notes. I'm going to delete my layer where I kind of hand wrote my notes there. I'm just going to select it, press the trash can. And so I got panel 1, panel 2, and then I've got my text and groups right here. So this thing's pretty organized right now. And so I'll just resave the JPEG, or sorry, this resave the PSD. The JPEG, nothing really changed visually, so I don't need to resave the JPEG. So that's page 1. And so let's go on to page 2. So I don't have any more drawings to import, but I'll just kind of delete these out. And remember, so for page 2, do the same thing I did for kind of importing your drawings, right? Make your drawings into flat JPEGs, and then duplicate them into this file here. So let's see here. I'm just gonna import some random drawings here. Let's see. Sure. So pretend this is a storyboard for a second, right? So you're and it's all finished. Forgot to press the check mark again, like I always do. Come on. Let's see here. If I want to flip that, I'll just go to image and image rotation, 180 degrees, bam. And I'm gonna, so, you know, imagine that this is a storyboard that you finished out and it's a JPEG. So duplicate the layer and then bring it into, so page 1. Before we get too far on this, so we're kind of going on to page 2 here. So before doing anything, actually, just before even starting on page 2, sorry for the confusion on this, but before you even start on page 2, I would just go ahead and go to File, Save As, and save this as Mad Max for me, you know, whatever the name of your film is, and then type page 2 as a PSD, and press save, and OK. So now we're working on Mad Max page 2 PSD, and if I go to File, Open, Mad Max page 1 PSD, that's still there, you know, and it exists separately in your computer. And so any changes I make to Mad Max page 2 is not going to mess up page 1. But I get the advantage of having some of this text already kind of on my page that I can kind of manipulate easily, right? So, you know, you place your drawing inside the panel. This one obviously doesn't fit because this isn't a storyboard. That's just a random drawing from my sketchbook. And so, you know, you place your drawings inside the panels as we did before, and then I might go to where it says page 2, and I'll press T for the text tool right there so I can make this change. You just have to click right there, type in page 2, and then here I would need to change my panel's information, right? So we would be on to scene 3, and it'd be panel 1. And let's just pretend that scene 3, that shot, takes up 3 whole drawings. So I'll just keep it on shot 3. That'll be panel 2 of shot 3. And I might have to press the V button in between each of these. Staying on shot 3. That'll be the 3rd panel of shot 3. Right, so that's just pretending that the shot of this Miyazaki character that I drew is takes up 3 whole drawings right there. And so you just go in and you're replacing the dialogue, you know. Hey, how are you doing? You know, we're, you know, changing the text there, and then the action notes, you just kind of go in and change it for each panel, right? So we're just kind of going in. Oops. Sometimes when you do the text tool, it'll do what it just did for me, where you'll click and drag and you think you have it, and then it just annoyingly makes a new layer. Photoshop is pretty dumb about that. Let's see. So you can see I made a typo on the other one. So this is a close-up, and you know, so you just retype, you know, the information and update it for each page. And so once this is done, you would save this as page 2. again, PSD, so I already did that. So I just need to go File, Save, just to make sure the PSD is saved. And then next up, I would go File, Save a Copy, and save a JPEG of this. So I have page 1, page 2 PSD, page 1 copy JPEG, page 2 copy JPEG right here. Then I'll press OK. So let's close all this out. And so the step, I'm going to show how to make a PDF binder out of this. And the PDF binder is really important here so that when we have our group critique, that things will kind of go smoothly and we're not kind of juggling random files and things like that. And it's just also it's an important step in just learning how to kind of present your work professionally. So this is really easy. In Photoshop, you just need to follow a couple steps here. And notice that I closed out all my documents. It doesn't even matter if I have my documents open right now in Photoshop. So to do this, I just go to File, Automate, PDF Presentation. So I'm going to leave this up for a second. It's File, Automate, PDF Presentation. And honestly, finding it is the hard part, or just remembering where to find it. The steps after this are actually super easy. So File, Automate, PDF Presentation. When you click on that, you'll get this window right here. And this window right here, we're going to browse and find our JPEGs of our pages. So page 1, 2, 3, 4 of your storyboards, or your storyboard templates, you know, that we've created, where we have the drawings and put, you know, the action notes and all that information in there. So I'm going to press browse to find my 2 pages that I made in this demonstration. So you can see that they show right up here. So I have Mad Max, page 1, and I'm going to hold Command to kind of skip over one. So hold Command to select page 2. So I have Mad Max, page 2, copy JPEG. Again, super important that these are JPEGs. Don't save them as any other file type, like a PNG, and PSDs won't work here. So just press open. And so page 1, page 2, you can switch the order if the order comes in wrong, right? You can just click it, drag it to change the order here. And once you have it, all you need to do now is just press save. And it'll ask you where you want it to go. And that is definitely going into the wrong folder right now. So I'm going to click on, the folder I want this to be. You know what? I'm just going to put this on the desktop to save us some time. And I'll call this Mad Max Storyboard. Here we go. Mad Max Storyboard Binder version 1. That's what I'm going to save this as, and press save. And get this menu, just press Save PDF. And you see it automated there just for a moment. And so my desktop's getting pretty busy right now. So let me close some of this stuff out. And this is the file right here. So I just saved it onto my desktop. And if you press spacebar, you'll get a preview of it. I'm on a Mac if I press spacebar. And you can see here, I have page 1 that I made here, and I have all my panel information, my page number in the top right. And again, I recommend you type this out because it's just going to look a lot clearer and get rid of any confusion here. And if you do write it out, you got to write it out with good handwriting. I got to be able to read it here. So, but you can see here, I have page 1, and then if I press an arrow down or just press right there, you get what I concocted for page 2. That's obviously doesn't look like what you want it to look like, but just I just wanted to make a page 2 so that you could see what happens when you put a binder together, or a PDF, I should say. And so when you turn in this project, you're going to want to turn in this PDF right here, or a PDF like this, where they're combined into multiple pages like that. And let's see here. Anything that's not a binder, it's just going to be points deducted. And you saw how long that took me to make that binder. It took, what did that take? Like 30 seconds, you know? So just be sure to kind of do that step right